Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the React Foundation series. In this episode, as promised from the previous episode, we're going to be showing you guys how to create our own Modal Box component that we can reuse over and over and over in our application. So whether you want to just use it for this one application or, throughout, like create as a library that you can use across your other applications is entirely up to you. I'm just going to show you guys the thought process behind making a modal box. And then once you guys know how to do that, you can customize it however you like. So for the uninitiated, if you don't know what a modal box is, this is exactly what I'm talking about, where we click, we launch the modal box, we have a content area, and the background kind of fades out. And then we can interact with the content inside. It could be a form, it could be just readable text or whatever, is entirely up to you as the user of the modal box, as a developer using the modal box. And it's prevalent in the web. Everyone, almost everyone uses Modal Box nowadays. So we're going to be creating this, and I'm going to show you guys exactly how to do that. Let's get started. So let's first dissect what we're looking at over here. So you can see in the background there's some kind of overlay in the back. I'm not going to look into the code because I want to be able to think about this by ourselves, like without dissecting and using other people's. We're going to use this as a demonstration to show what a modal box is and the components that go behind it. But the general area it's very simple. It's just a box in the middle with some content and an overlay with like an alpha, you can see through, and it's usually dark color or some sort. That's kind of the general area, a general idea behind it. So what we're going to be doing is I'm going to head over into here. So we're going to be using the modal box with this guy here. So when I click on this, it should enable a modal box that allows us to create an account. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to head over into the code editor here. And I'm going to create this in the dashboard first. And then I'm going to slowly show you guys how to abstract away from the dashboard so it just becomes a general modal box. So I'm going to create a new file here called modal. Actually a new directory, because we're going to have a CSS file in there as well. So new folder called modal. And in here I'm going to create a new file called index.js. And here I'm going to import React from React. And I'm going to also import observable from mobx. Import observer from mobx React. So we're going to be using mobx state to allow us to create this modal box. So class modal extends react.pure component. So render, so just our basic render function. I'm going to have a return, very simple. Div ID modal, and then just close this out like that. And so basically we are going to have some kind of overlay, and basically we want everything to be under this modal ID. So we can call it whatever we want. In this case, I'm just going to use a modal ID, and basically we're going to render the modal in the page, and then when we click on it, it's going to open. So what that means is it's going to have two states. It's a closed state and then it's an open state. So we need to be able to track that state. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do observable is open equals false. So by default, a modal box is going to be closed. So is open is going to be false. And we want to add the observer. So the easiest thing I can show you guys how to do is like we need to implement actions. So one action is when we toggle this modal, we're going to toggle it open. So we need some kind of action in here. So I'm going to do action in here as well. So action open equals E. So basically we're going to pass it an event. So E.prevent default. So actually if E, so should we pass in an E? So imagine for a second that we're gonna we're basically going to toggle this with a button. So when we click on the button, we get an E event that propagates into this, and then basically we need to prevent the default if we have an E. So there's a reason why I'm using if over here, because sometimes you don't really want to have, you don't really pass in the event. You just want to toggle open. And so basically what we're going to do is we're going to change this to true. So this dot is open equals true. So that's basically all the open action is going to do. It's going to toggle the state to be open. So it's complaining here because we're not doing an export. We're going to export default modal. All right, so that's all the squiggly lines gone. So we also need to be able to close our modal box. So action close equals E, and then yeah, something like that. If E, and then E dot prevent default, something like that is good. And basically all this needs to do is this dot is open equals close. Nope, false. My bad. All right. So basically that's really all we need in terms of toggling our modal box open and closing. Now, how do we know that this thing actually works? So we're going to have an overlay, and an overlay is only going to be visible in our page when the modal box is open. So if we go back to example over here, right now it's open, so we show the overlay, but when we close this, the overlay goes away. So we need to have a way of rendering the class like a different class in our CSS where, when the modal box is open, we show the overlay. So we need to have some kind of class. So class name. And basically what we want to do is, the easiest thing is we want to render if a modal box is open or closed. So if it's open, we render open. And if it's closed, we render just nothing, basically no class. That's kind of the idea. So it's very easy to do. So if we do class overlay classes equals, so what we want to do is, I'm thinking, so there's one library we can use, because GitHub class names. So this library is going to make it very easy for us to toggle class names, because it already implements a lot of stuff for us. So for example, we can render a certain class if it's true or false. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to use this class in our project. So this is class names. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and install this package. So I'm going to head back over here, doing yarn add class names, and then this will be a dependency in our project now. So this is a very handy tool. I use it in almost all of my projects. Actually, I use it in all my projects, not almost. So with that, we're going to go back over here. So now we can do an import on class. So import class names from class names, something like that. And so now we can use that class names. So let me show you guys how to use it. So class names. And then basically we can do something like, let's look at the packet, that example over here. So it says here we can pass in like an object, and then basically we can say open, and then this dot is open. So basically, if this dot is open is true, we're gonna render the open class. So I'm gonna call the overlay classes over here. Why is it going okay, so const. All right, so technically when I render this initially, it's not really gonna show anything. Basically it's just it's just gonna be we're not gonna really get anything. So what we want to do now, this is kind of like the basic shell. Has everything we need, but it doesn't do very much. So what we're going to be doing is I'm going to import this, and then I'm going to use it in our welcome page. And then basically, the goal is we want to click on this button and make it toggle the overlay. So I'm going to do an import modal from modal. And here, I'm just going to render it modal like that. Very simple. And what I want to do here as well is assign the modal to a constant. And we want to use it here, modal like that. So what this does is it allows us to kind of, actually we can even use the ref for this. So modal ref this dot modal equals, actually we need to do a callback, so node. All right, so now basically what this does is when we render the modal, we're going to assign the node to this component's this.modal. So what that means is now we are able to access this.modal. So we can do something like this.modal.open when we toggle this link. So let's see first if everything is rendering correctly. It seems like all right, so let's start our server here and see what happens. So once we get this to render, we know that we have the basic structure going, and basically, since we don't want to have one episode be too long, we're going to jump over to the next part, and so on. So let's see where this brings us. All right, everything looks good. Let's see if the modal box actually got rendered. So yeah, we see the div ID modal right over there, and the class, there's no class because it is not open, and because if it's not true, it's not going to render. So basically, the next thing we want to do is we want to configure the on-click prop over here. So all right, so the easiest thing is just to implement the function. Open modal equals e something like that. So that's only because like the modal box gets rendered after the link. So I'm just gonna fix that really quick. So e.prevent default, and then I'm gonna do this.modal.open, and here it's gonna be fine because this.open modal is actually a function. So open modal already in the component predefined. So that should work. So let's give this a whirl. So I reload, errors are all gone. So let's check if the modal box is being rendered correctly. All right, so there it is, the modal box. So now if I click on that button, technically it should toggle the class. So let's see if that works. So there we go. So you see that the class open popped up in here in the modal. So basically that link and everything worked. The link is now toggling the modal box. So for now, this is not the ideal setup for the modal box. Like ideally we would have one modal throughout our application because it is a singleton. You don't really normally have multiple modal box open. And I'm going to show you guys how to handle that later on in the next episode. So now that we have the basic setup, the next thing we want to do is start to create the style for the overlay in the modal box itself, and then later on the animations to make it zoom in or fade in or whatever that it is we want to do. So with that, I want to wrap it up. We got the skeleton of our modal working. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also become a member for $9 a month. Not every episode is free. Certain episodes are members only, and when you're a member, you get access to everything we have, including in this Modal Box series as well. Like certain episodes in this is not going to be free. It's not going to be available on YouTube. It's only going to be available on our site. So with that, I want to wrap it up, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.